Hey folks, welcome back. So we are jumping ahead about, I think, 3 days from when we were just cutting the hay over in that field over there. And so the goal for today is to get the hay raked and to get it baled, because tomorrow it's basically 100% chance of rain, and then for the next several days after that it's like 40 to 80% chance over the next few days. So if I don't get it today, it would be a solid week before things might be dried out enough to bale it. And at that point, with it being rained on and all that sort of stuff, it's really gonna not be great for the quality of the hay. So we've got our work cut out for ourselves today, and the first thing that we need to work on is the hay rake. Get that ready to go, because that, of course, is the first thing that we're going to need. And the thing that needs work on that is getting our wheel swapped out. We got a brand new one over there, and so once we get that done, that'll be ready to go. And we'll have to go over, get the Massey, get the sickle unhooked from that, and get this hooked up, and we'll get that over there so that as soon as the grass gets dried out enough, we'll be able to rake it. And then once we rake it, we'll let it set for a few hours after that. So that way, if there's anything that was kind of underneath, hopefully that gets turned over on top, and that'll give that a chance to get dried out a little bit more before we bale. Alright, so the sickle needs to come off of the Massey, and I'm actually just going to leave it over here in the field because, well, this is the only field that I'm doing this year, and I really don't have a whole lot of room over at the mill house right now, and since it's getting used over here, I might as well leave it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it here off to the side. I've got a pallet, and that's where the main part of it's going to go. I wasn't able to find another one to use, but I did have a 4x4 laying around, and so hopefully I'll be able to get that underneath the bar. I'll just leave it flat. I think it might sit a little bit nicer if the bar is out flat, so we're going to try it this way. It is in the shade right now, but as the sun swings across here, as it gets a little bit later in the morning, this will be in the sun, so it shouldn't be an issue. It'll let it get dried out and stuff during the day, so it's not going to be constantly sitting in the shade where it's going to be more prone to get real rusty and stuff, so I think it should be fine sitting here. Alrighty, with that off, I'm pretty happy with how that's sitting there. That part kind of is down in the grass, but I'm not too concerned about that. Most of the stuff that's moving parts is up out of there, so I think it should be fine. So now we'll take this, we'll go grab the hay rake and bring that over here, and then as soon as the grass gets dry, we can start doing some raking. Alrighty folks, so I had a couple things that I was wanting to work on the 784 here, and the first of which is that we had a bit of a leak, as you might be able to see it right around in here where there's kind of some darker colored stuff on there. And I noticed that when it got brought over here to the farm, and I didn't have a chance to look at it at that moment, but I've had it running today and I'm not seeing it leaking from anywhere, so I'm not entirely sure what that is. So I think I'm just gonna let it be, and I'll keep an eye on it later when we're baling, and if I can see anything leaking, I'll try figuring out where it is then, and if it's something that needs to be addressed right that moment or whether it can wait till a little later. And then the second thing is that the tachometer up there is not working. And of course that's kind of important as far as being able to tell what your RPMs are so that you know what your PTO RPMs are. Generally, you're supposed to run them at a certain speed, and since that's not working, I don't know what my PTO speed is. I was hoping that it was just something that had come disconnected, but as it turns out, the cable that connects from the engine up to the actual meter has broken, so definitely not going to be getting a new one of those in the next couple hours, so I'm just going to kind of have to wing it, and hopefully it'll be fairly close. So, since I can't fix anything on here, we're going to go ahead and head over to the hayfield and start raking, get that done, and then we'll probably let that set for a little bit, and while that's setting, we'll get the tractor hooked up to the baler, get the baler oiled and greased and get that ready to go, and then hopefully work on baling. Now, there is a chance later, like late this afternoon, early evening, of rain. It's not real high, but I don't want to wait too long to get around to doing this because it's definitely not good for the hay to get wet right before it gets baled. Alrighty, well, as you saw, I decided to quit raking and go grab the baler and try getting a little bit of that done, because I looked at the radar and you may have been able to see some of the dark clouds rolling through here. I thought, well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get even all of this lower stuff raked and get it baled before it starts raining. So I went over, grabbed the baler, and it took a little while to get it connected because who knows how long it's been since those hydraulic hookups were used on the tractor last time. That's probably been at least 10 years. So those were a little stiff. I had troubles getting that on, and it took a while to get it hooked up. I had to get it oiled and greased and all that sort of stuff. So I got over here and I started messing with the baler. Isn't it a beaut? Yeah. I kind of caught it coming back down with the back of the baler, and it kind of scuffed it up a little bit. It's certainly not the prettiest one out there, but you know, for a first bale of hay, you can't complain too much. As soon as I did that, I started pulling ahead, and I realized that the chains weren't turning, and as it turned out, I busted a belt. So I'm looking at it, and what is supposed to be in here is not this thing. It's actually supposed to have a double belt running in here, and it's actually a single belt, but with two V belts kind of connected together there. So this thing really isn't what it was supposed to be. So basically, I've gotten what I'm gonna get done for a little bit here until I can get a new belt in. I'm gonna close the cover back up on there, and I'm gonna drive this back over into that corner of the field over there and park it. And I guess that's all I'm getting done until I can get a new belt in. So I suppose, seeing as I'm down here, I might as well add in a little bit more about the rake. So I made it all of about one lap around the field, and my brand new tire that I put on was completely flat. So I think that's going to get returned. Obviously that was a real high quality one there. And so actually I went and I grabbed the old one that, you know, half the tread was missing on it, and but that one actually seemed to be holding air. So I grabbed that, I swapped it out, and I was able to get well, all the rest of it that you see done here, which is probably maybe half-ish, a third to a half of the field. I was able to get all that done on the old one. However, like I'd mentioned before, the old one was in kind of rough shape, and the hub had actually broken out before and had been welded back in place, and it broke out again. So you can see that that's not connected up anymore. So that was actually kind of the main reason that I quit, but it was also that I wanted to start getting going on the baling, because I thought I was going to get some of that done before it rained, but you know, it is what it is. So another thing on the baler that I don't think I mentioned when I was over on the other side of the field, right now it's about 5 o'clock on Saturday. So this is also 4th of July weekend, and as you may recall, because this will be going up a couple weeks after this, 4th of July was on a Monday, which means that's going to bump back when my belt can get shipped out even further. So just perfect timing on this. I couldn't have done this any better. Alright, so while we're waiting on parts to be coming in for the baler to get this back up and running, I decided to do a little bit of work on it. There was one thing that I knew I wanted to do, which was pull out the twine knife and get this sharpened up, because this can make a whole lot of difference in how smoothly your baling goes, because if you don't have a sharp knife up there to be cutting the string, you're going to be having to hop off the tractor every time that you're doing a bale to go cut it manually, because this isn't doing the job. So it's actually got two sides on it. It's got the knife there, and then it's got it on the other side there as well. So I got both of those sharpened up. So this needs to go back on. Now also, as I was looking it over, I realized that one of the sets of pickup tines was not running right. There's 3 rows of it that kind of come down and bring the hay up, and one of them was not coming out of the guards over here. So I started taking stuff apart here, and I found out that the little bearing thing that runs around in the track was outside of the track, and part of the reason for that was that the bushing had a couple welds on it, and those had broken loose, and because that had come out, it allowed stuff to slide over, and we're missing some washer, which I'm not going to replace right now, because that would require taking the entire row of tines and teeth out, and I don't really want to mess with that right now. But what we can do is try and get the bushing back over, weld that back in place, and then put a new cotter key in there, and that should hold it over where it's supposed to be. We'll have to get the bearing back up into that track as well, but that should make it work well enough for the time being. And then at whatever point I end up taking the whole thing apart and replacing tines and stuff like that, we'll get a new washer to put on then. Alright, so now I'm finally going to do the thing that I originally came over here to do, and that is to put on the freshly sharpened string cutter. Alrighty, so I didn't put that back together the same way that I took it apart. As you saw, when I first started putting it back on, I put the cutter plate on top of the other metal plate that makes it go up and down. That was how it was originally. But after I got it on there and I was looking at it, it kind of makes a gap in between there. And it seems as if though that would make it so that it wouldn't cut as well. I'm not sure, I don't know exactly which way it's supposed to be on there, but I decided to put it on the other way so that the cutter was on the bottom of that plate that it hooks to. And it seems as though it should do better there. Whether that's the way it's supposed to be or not, I have no idea.